Throughout this book, we are considering what the image and likeness of God means and how it applies to human beings who are created in His image and likeness. We have divided this concept into two categories of natural attributes, that which a being possesses but did not choose to possess, and moral character, that which is produced by the usage of the natural attributes one possesses. The list of natural attributes we look at and define is sovereignty, eternality, omniscience, omnipotence, spirituality, omnipresence, and God's triune nature. Though the consideration of natural attributes is fascinating and valuable, it is the use of such attributes that produce moral character, and moral character is the focus of much biblical teaching. Before we move into the moral character God produces, we first consider the idea that God is personal, or He is a person with personality. The list we consider under moral character is love, which is the essential moral expression that characterizes God, all other moral characteristics actually being characteristics of love. We then consider holiness, righteousness, faithfulness, wisdom, and mercy. In the upcoming series of videos, we are going to consider what love is. It is common knowledge that Scripture speaks of love extensively, although in the Synoptic Gospels, Jesus only referenced love about 3 times. Love is the central moral manifestation of God and is the greatest moral manifestation of which human beings are capable. God is known for His moral perfection, consistently operating in love, while human beings have demonstrated deeply disturbing moral failures, violating the law of love in a multitude of ways. This is a failure that we are to overcome under God's guidance and provision. I emphasized in a previous video that the distinction between natural attributes and moral character should be understood and emphasized. There are influential teachers who treat love as part of God's nature. This will prove to be problematic as we consider our essential premise that human beings are created in the image and likeness of God and, consequently, are to be imitators of God and walk in love. If love is part of God's nature and we are created in His image, it is part of our nature, and a command to walk in love makes no sense, as it cannot be commanded of someone to have a specific natural attribute. You either have it or you don't. You can command someone about the use of natural attributes, which is what is happening when God commands us to walk in love. A natural attribute is that which is part of a being's constitution and that which was not chosen as such. In part 1 of this book, we considered the natural attributes that are part of God's constitution and how this applies to the fact that human beings have been created in His image and likeness, possessing such attributes as well. If love is part of God's nature, then it is simply a faculty He possesses and, in and of itself, is not a virtuous aspect of His being. Love, in this case, is simply a capacity and not descriptive of His moral character. If this is true about God, it is also true about human beings as those created in His image and likeness. Love, in this case, has no moral value in reference to God nor to man, as there is no virtue associated with the possession of natural attributes. Vice and virtue come into play as moral agents choose how they use the natural attributes they possess. Consequently, one must possess a certain set and particular types of natural attributes in order to be able to produce moral character, in order to be a moral agent and consequently produce love. I'll close this presentation by quoting James H. Fairchild in Moral Philosophy or the Science of Obligation. He states, "God is love because his entire character is conformed to the requirement of benevolence. This is the holiness of God as a moral attribute. Of holiness in essence or being, as distinguished from holiness in character, we have no conception. There is no thought answering to the words."